All right, it's 12:01 PM. We'll go ahead and get this meeting of the Finance Committee started. First up on the agenda is public comment. Do we have anybody signed up for public comment? No, good. Anybody in the audience that wishes to address the committee? No? All right, that does it for public comment then. Items for discussion. Number one, presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation of VPub's financial performance for the period ending June 30th, 2023. Monica? Monica, and just to confirm, June 30th, 2023, so that means we're through Q3 of the fiscal year, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Monica Cavasso, Director of Finance. We'll be looking at the financials as of June 30th, 2023, the end of the third quarter of the fiscal year. And we'll be looking at the far right column, the year-to-date numbers. We see that we had total operating revenues of $167,082,305. From this, we back out our total operating expenses of $139,338,790, leaving us operating income of $27,743,515. We then back out our non-operating expenses of $44,563,692, which leaves us income before capital contributions of a negative $16,820,177. To this, we add capital contributions of $3,845,943, giving us a change in net position of negative $12,974,234. When added to the net position at the beginning of the year of $445,310,943, gives us a net position at the end of the period of $432,336,709.
And Monica, just to confirm that item 16 other, the negative 30.7 million is the Tenaska rebate, correct? So that has been for the, is that 100% of?
Yes, all
of it?
of the 31.7 million has
Yep.
been distributed.
Okay,
We've had about 47% of the checks have cleared the bank,
Yep.
which is very good. A little bit more than 50% of the dollars have already cleared the bank. And so that's a lot better progress than we expected to have as far as those checks getting cashed by the
Great.
customers.
but 100% of it, regardless of whether it's cash or not,
100%
100% of it is reflected in this number.
Correct.
Great.
And moving on to the flow of funds, looking at line 20, you see that we generated sufficient revenues to cover our transfers out. So 20,369,164. We had transfers to the operating sub-account for the fuel adjustment of 2,136,244. To the improvement fund for CIP funding of $6,681,311. And to the improvement fund from the Resaca fee for Resaca CIP funding of $269,842 for total transfers of $9,087,397, leaving us an improvement fund surplus of $11,281,767. And we did, on the last page, you will see in the improvement fund, a reduction from last month. That does reflect now. Last month, we were only showing the amount of the checks. We've now posted the transaction for the credits as well. And so this reflects the disbursement of the full 31 million of the Tenaska Equity Fund refunds. And so you see that drop in the improvement fund. But our total portfolio is still at a very healthy 194,247,631. One additional change that we've made, we've also now segregated out the Resaca fees so that you can see on a separate line how much we've collected or how much we've got so far in the bank from Resaca fee collections as well.
Okay.
And that's shown on line 12.
Okay, so that, again, that improvement fund number shouldn't decrease anymore.
No significant decrease.
No significant decrease.
So that big decrease.
That's our true
from
number.
31 million distribution.
Great.
Yeah, any future decreases will be because of capital.
Right, but related to the Tenaska rebate,
That's all.
everything has been
You're
factored in
correct.
at this point.
That's all reflected now in the financials. That's it. Are there any other questions on the financials?
Well, just for my own understanding, Will their soccer people continue to collect the soccer people
Yes.
at the time they're going into a specific fund?
Yes.
Those funds are being held, and they're being utilized as needed, or is that on hold right now?
No, I mean, they're being utilized right now by the Restore Grant. Most of the expenses related to that program are being covered through the grant, but there are some expenses in there that we're gonna have to pay out of this particular fund. So yeah, they're just, they're being collected and set aside for any future funding under the core, or for our local match under the core grant.
I just would like to state that we need to move carefully for those funds with direction from the entire board. Everybody knows that we're taking a really good look at this. So I appreciate that information.
Joseph, any questions? On the financials?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Number two on the agenda is presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation to extend the contract for external audit services with BML for year 2.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. So back in June of 2022, the board did approve the contract for external audit services with Burton McCumber Longoria. The awarded contract did give PV the option to renew for 2 additional years. And so we are exercising the option to renew. Burton McCumber has done a satisfactory job for us. The only difference between last year and this year, as far as the contract is concerned, is that now this year we will be required to have a single audit. That under the Single Audit Act, that requires an annual audit of the non-federal entity, being the PUB, that expend over $750,000 of federal financial assistance in any given fiscal year. So what this audit entails is that it's going to review our internal controls. So it's going to ensure that the federal government, that we have proper internal controls in place to administer the program, and that we meet all program requirements. So there's an additional $6,000 that was added to the engagement letter, which is very reasonable.
And that's something that wasn't required previously?
Not last year. We did not expend that. So we did expend over 750 in the Restore grant. And so that's what's pushing us over that threshold limit that requires a single audit. This is an item that we will be taking to the Monday's board meeting as well for approval and consideration. Okay. Any questions?
No, I too think they have been performing well and presented to the board.
Joseph?
I really can't say much about this. I'm going to have to recuse myself from anything to do with BML.
Okay, fair enough. Great. You don't need any action on that item?
No,
sir. Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Number 3 is presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation on status update for the fiscal year 24 budget process and budget calendar.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is George Angel, and I am the financial manager, and I'm going to be providing a quick update on the fiscal year 2024 budget cycle. The finance department continues to work on establishing both the O&M and capital budgets for fiscal year 24. The finance team has met with the executive team. That was about 2 weeks ago, where we presented the first draft of the O&M budget. We did receive some guidance and suggestions from some of the executive team members in regards to the personnel piece. And on the personnel piece, and those edits have already been incorporated to the subsequent drafts that we've worked on. The biggest thing that the finance team continues to work on is the reduction to the non-personnel requests that came in for the departments. The request came in a little high in comparison to last year's approved non-personnel budget, and also high in comparison to what we are projecting to finish the year at. And so we set a target to have non-personnel requests at a level similar to last year, which was a little over 42 million. The directors and their managers continue to review the request to see where we can get, where they can cut to get us to those levels. We also met with the directors that submitted capital projects for the coming year. Again, requests came in really high in comparison to last year. And as I will report in the next board item, our completion ratio versus what was approved and what has been spent is not where it should be this late in the year. And so we'll talk about that more in the next item. And so we ask directors to realistically look at their projects and make determinations on what we can actually do in the coming year. We've also set a limit of around 75 million for the CIP in fiscal year 24. The finance team has another meeting scheduled this coming Friday with the executive team to discuss the progress that we made on the O&M piece of the budget, as well as present the first draft of the CIP plan to them to get some suggestion from them as well. We are planning on having one-on-one budget briefings with every member of the board where we can get into the details of everything. That will be your chance to ask questions on specific items, on specific accounts, and provide feedback on what we have established so far. Those are tentatively scheduled for the week of August 21st through the 25th. So you will be receiving some emails from Norma and Rosie to kind of get some dates and times that will work best for you all. And that's going to be maybe for like an hour and a half max where we go over that.
Okay. And George, I noticed that on our calendar for today, we have present draft budget to finance committee. In our board packet, we had a copy of the a CIP plan, but that was the approved plan, correct?
Yeah, that's the one for 23, and that's going to show the expenditures to June 30th.
Okay, so was there something that either was uploaded to Board Effect or that's pending that would meet that timeline, or are we pushing that to a later date?
We're going to push that out to the one-on-one briefings. That way we can kind of get into that and kind of have those discussions one-on-one. And that way y'all can have some time also to review when we have those sessions.
Okay, but can we get those drafts distributed prior to the one-on-ones?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll have those out maybe about a week out, just to kind of give you guys enough time to go through them.
Okay.
And then lastly, I did want to mention that at the SRWA board meeting that we had on Monday, their budget was approved. And so that's been passed and that gets incorporated into PUB's budget. And so that's one of the items that we can kind of check off our list. And that's all I had for now. If you all have any questions, I can answer that at this time.
George, just a quick comment. I heard you, some of the HR requests are a little bit higher. You also mentioned about the capital project. I suspect that y'all are meeting, and of course, the executive team is making priority of this.
Correct.
Your HR, y'all see a lot of vacancies must have already evaporated, and most of the positions are being filled.
Yes, so we did make some adjustments from our first draft that we presented to the executive team. We had used a 9% on the vacancy savings, and we reduced that to 5% because we did see that there was more vacancies being filled, and that was actually the percentage that we were seeing throughout the year as opposed to the 9%. Yeah, so that was one of the changes. Correct.
Okay. Joseph, any questions on the budget item?
Yeah, well, first of all, that's good news. Glad to hear about the vacancies. Second, and I know we've talked about this before, but we see that we're looking at trimming next year's capital budget. Is there anything we can pull into this year? Is there anything that can be grabbed that we keep putting off, or that will allow us to keep some of maybe these long-standing items going? But I would really encourage us to try to figure out how to hit our expected capital expenditure plan, so that we aren't sitting there with aging equipment that can't be updated because it just didn't fit in this year's budget.
Sure. And so the meetings that we had last week with the directors who submitted CIP projects, that was one of the things that we tasked them with, is really taking a realistic look at what can be spent versus what we want to spend. And we know that there's a lot of goals out there and a lot of needs that need to be met, but we have to prioritize what we can actually do based on the resources that we have. And so that's one of the tasks that the directors are currently working on. And hopefully we can present a CIP plan that's going to be both efficient and cost effective.
But also, what can be spent this fiscal year?
In the remaining 3 months, you mean, Joseph?
Yeah, is there anything we can bring into this fiscal year? Accelerate.
So on the next item, to the monthly tracker, we did add an additional column that shows the open POs to kind of give you guys a better understanding of what other commitments, aside from just the actual spending that has been through June 30th, there's actual commitments that have already been set up in the form of POs that are going to allow the staff to spend that money as the year progresses. I mean, I know we only have about a month and a half left, but nonetheless, with those commitments already being open, that ties up that money, and we know that that's going to be spent. How fast? I'm not sure, but at least there's already a commitment to get that money spent.
Okay. And I think speaking to Joseph's comments and what we've said in the past, I think it'd be helpful for the board, or at the very least for this committee, to have, I mean, even if it's, just a ballpark number or a ballpark report showing what the actual objective is for the year. Because when you finish the year and you've got these, 15% or, three quarters in, you're at 14 or 15 or 30% and you're continuously reporting those numbers, it's really tough to be able to tell whether we're meeting the goals or not, right? I mean, obviously the goal isn't 100%, because we've never hit 100%, or at least as far back as I've gone back and looked at financial reports with PUB, the organization never hit 100%. So
That's correct.
That's not the goal. Maybe there's a way to be able to establish, a more realistic number, even if it's just an internal number.
Yeah.
That we can look at and say, okay, did we hit what we were really trying to do? Because otherwise, it's the line item document that's included as part of our budget for CIP
Mhm.
is incredible. I mean, very detailed, outlines everything we've got
Yeah.
in the CIP plan. But ultimately, it's really tough for us as a board to know whether, we're on track or not, because the percentages are always off, right?
Yeah.
And again, I think it would just be helpful as a tool. And I'm not suggesting we have to set up anything that's too complicated, but just, have an idea.
Sure.
So that we know where we are.
Sure. And that's something that we can brainstorm with the executive team when we meet with them on Friday, say that was brought up and see what we can come up with.
Right.
Any other questions on this?
Good, thank you.
Joseph?
No, I think that's it. I agree with Patricio that that would be nice.
Okay. Next item is yours as well, George, which is presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation on the year-to-date capital expenditures as of Q3 of 23.
Correct. Okay, so I think y'all have the report in front of you. I'm going to go ahead and concentrate on columns E and F. And so I'm going to start off with the electric total. The approved plan for fiscal year 2023 was at $32,299,855. Year to date as of June 30th, we have expenses of $9,423,282, giving us a completion ratio of 29.2%. Moving on to the general administration, we have a $7,246,568 plan that was approved for fiscal year 23. Year to date actual expenses as of June 30th was $593,898, giving us a completion percentage of 8.2%. On the water side, the approved plan for fiscal year 2023 was at $23,160,687. Year-to-date expenses as of June 30th is at $3,222,707, giving us a 13.9%. Moving on to the next page. The wastewater, the approved plan for fiscal year 2023 was $24,410,086. Year-to-date expenses as of June 30th, we are at $3,791,067 with a completion percentage of 15.5%. And then facilities, we have a approved plan of fiscal year 2023 of $5,016,799. Year-to-date actuals as of June 30th at $302,436, giving us a completion percentage of 6%. So overall, the CIP plan for fiscal year 23 was at $92,133,995. Year-to-date expenses are at $17,333,390, giving us a completion percentage of 18.8. And as I did mention, on the last column, you'll see there that we do have POs of around $30 million in additional funding that's being tied up. And so that's going to reduce the amount that we have in CIP.
Okay, so that's, just to clarify, that 30 million is in addition to the 17.3
That's
that's been
correct.
expensed.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's still an alarmingly low completion ratio. And I think, again, to Patricio's point, man, it would be really nice to understand what this means for our utility. You know, does this mean we have rotting poles that we're not replacing? Or transformers that are, under spec, or, fill in the blank.
Sure. I mean, I don't want to speak for the directors, but I mean, one of the biggest things that we see is that staffing, resources, lead times on equipment are things that are causing the delay in the expenditures. But also, I don't want to say that they're not doing anything. Obviously, they're going out and taking into priority the work that needs to get done. And if something comes up that where it's an emergency and that needs to be put at the front of the list, they concentrate on that before they do the other stuff that was planned that can maybe hold off a little while longer. And so, but I mean, to your point, I do understand where you all are coming from. And like I said, hopefully when we meet with the executive team on Friday, we can come up with a report that'll kind of show what the objectives are and how we've accomplished those objectives based on the numbers that you all are seeing in front of you.
It's like a comment, George. I mean, you've kind of been here before. I don't understand how the difference can be so wide. I know Mark and the guys have met and discussed it on capital improvement plans and this time of the year where we're at. And I don't understand how it functions that way. I do understand delays. I do understand materials are delayed, but this is a huge concern for me. I don't know if y'all can put together a task force to figure out how this can be improved. I have a feeling we're going to be in the same spot here next year.
Yeah.
We haven't really done anything to improve the situation. And then at the same time, maybe there's nothing y'all can do to move this, to move this football forward.
Yeah.
Any comments, and Mike, the only,
No, I mean, we'll continue to work with our directors, but, I mean, we do have our directors here in the meeting. They could probably address their particular areas as to what the delays are.
Well, so I have a request. Since you're going to be meeting with the executive team, can we get a punch list of everything that needs to be ordered? That needs to be purchased. And then lead times on it. And then last time the lead times were checked up on. And what I would do is I would sit there and say, okay, well, starting the new fiscal year, oh, this guy has a lead time of 2 years. We just checked that. Let's do a quick swap and do something with, lead time of 9 months or something. But I mean, it feels like we should have a database of this information. And we should be able to sit there and move things around to optimize kind of our purchase plan. I don't know. Do you guys have a massive database with all this information in it?
With lead times, not that I'm aware of. I don't know if the directors have that on their level based on the equipment or materials that they use.
I can answer.
Well,
Dr.
you
Bowman,
need to speak in-
on behalf of the Water Wastewater, Marie Leal, good afternoon. For example, in the Water Wastewater Division, we do have what I call a master project list, where with my staff, we have a master project list, whether it be at the water plants, SRWA, lift stations, of all the ongoing projects that we have in our comments list. The person that is assigned to that project is where they have, whether we have projects, we have lift stations going on right now where we had to cease time because we're waiting on deliverables of equipment. And so yes, we keep track of where we're at. Also, one of the big things that I always have to do, there's projects that pop up, perhaps because the city is working on them and they weren't in our CIP list. I work with finance so that I move money around, shift money around from a project that I know is not moving forward, or it's not, or the city decided to wait another year on it, and we move money around. We have a big load. It's just that our CIP realistically has been too high, and that's one of the things that I worked with finance, that for the past few years, we've had huge carryover. And so that's carryover plus the lift stations, for example, that are scheduled to be renovated this year. And so one of the things that I'm doing differently on the water wastewater side, and also it includes the water plants and wastewater plants, is that now we're realistically pushing or reallocating even carryover amounts. So that hopefully this year, we have a realistic of what we can accomplish in 1 year.
Good point.
So I'm not carrying over just because of carrying over. If I know my staffing is suffered a lot, I'm still constantly putting on board consultants, which will help with the load. But one of the big changes that you will see is, at least on my division, is the carryover. That if realistically, we're not going to touch it, then we'll bump it further down. And we're still keeping track though, within the 5-year, so that I don't lose a project and that it falls through the cracks and we forget about it.
What I would like to see is your projects, and then each project, you know what capital equipment's required. So each project, let's tie that to the capital equipment required, and then let's tie that to timelines, lead times. And then we can sit there and go from project level, dive down and figure out where our bottlenecks are. If we can't execute a project this year, why bother going that route? And let's look at other projects and that have shorter lead times, and let's go that route. But I think we can do this a lot more intelligently by taking some engineering best practices and just saying, okay, let's create a master list, everything kind of sorted by project, and so that we can understand what's going on.
We can do that. We can try, of course, there has to be some adjustments between the way we operate on the water wastewater side and the way, for example, electrical works on the electrical side, as far as equipment and lead times, and even procurement methods. They slightly change between the two.
Understood.
Yeah, I did want to say that they do adjust the plan throughout the year. So if they see that something is now, you're worried about the effects on the infrastructure, and so they do look at that. And if there is something that becomes suddenly more critical than something that was already in the list, we reallocate those funds within the plan. We stay with the limit of the budget, but we do reallocate funds, add in new projects, or move things in and move things out as needed. And so they do consistently look at that, the directors and their managers, they look at that frequently to see, if they need to reprioritize their projects and move money around. And so we do that throughout the year.
Yeah, what basically affecting on the electrical side of it is the big projects, the new substations, the upgrades to existing substations. Those equipment lead times, it's about 6 months to a year. We just recently come to the board to reject one of the bids because it costs too high, and there was sort of concerns about the unmeeting specifications. So it's basically that. On the other smaller projects, we are continuing to work and continue to finalize the project. Like Marie and Monica was saying, we do use or carry on. I think it's close to deplete that on the electrical side. And subdivision, new connections, those are like always on like right on the budget. So we tend to move a lot of funding around on the electrical, and I think probably one of the electrical water is the one that probably spend a lot of the funding on the CIP. But this is on behalf of T&D only, not power plant, not CIS, not the electrical SCADA, the electric T&D.
All right.
Any other questions?
Also, maybe they should reinvent a new timeline for capital improvement projects.
I honestly think so. I think, I could see how, again, I'm a data guy. We could put together some databases and sit there and look at historical information. We think it'll take a year, but historical information that we have, we have, 60 plus years of information on how long these projects take. We could sit there and start really figuring out what we're doing and what we need to change.
Well, all right.
All right. Well, Joseph, I think there's an opening on the facilities committee, so you may have just volunteered yourself. onto that committee.
I heard some of the new folks really wanted to be on that. So,
All right, thanks, George.
Thank you, guys.
thank you.
Next up is presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation on commercial paper dealer selection. Monica?
Just a little bit of background. We have a commercial paper program that was authorized by the city commission at $100 million back in 2013. It was originally, we've had a commercial paper program for many years. It was 50 million, and then in 2013, they approved increasing it to $100 million. So that is basically a line of credit for us, primarily for our capital projects. So the proceeds of the notes are used to pay for additions, improvements, extensions, and as we saw during Hurricane Uri, Winter Storm Uri, we also used it to pay for some fuel costs. And so it can be used for both taxable and non-taxable purposes. They're short-term debt, and they carry short-term rates. They're notes that mature in not less than 4 days and not more than 270 days from the date of issuance. And the interest is calculated on the actual days that the notes are outstanding. And so if we don't have outstanding notes, we're not paying interest on them. They're issued in a minimum denomination of $100,000. They're payable as subordinate lien obligations, and they are rated. The commercial paper program is rated separately from the utilities underlying rates. So there are separate ratings for them as well, for the program as well. So the issuer or the borrower is the City of Brownsville, City of Brownsville Utility System. So PUB as an entity is not authorized to issue debt. The city commission has to authorize that. So we have a letter of credit provider. They guarantee that $100 million letter of credit. It's currently with PNC Bank. They provide credit and liquidity support, and there is a fee associated with that. Then we have the CP dealer. Currently, our CP dealer is Citigroup, but they need to be replaced. There's a Senate Bill 19 that was passed by the state of Texas that has to do with discrimination against firearms manufacturers. And so the Texas Attorney General had some requirements for any entity doing business with a government entity in the state of Texas, and Citigroup did not meet those qualifications. And so we have to replace Citigroup as our dealer. And the dealer sells the commercial paper notes to prospective buyers. The buyers typically are institutional investors, money market funds, and high net worth individuals. We also have an issuing and paying agent, US Bank. They issue the CP notes to the buyers, and they pay the notes upon presentation at maturity. That's just a little bit of a background on the commercial paper offering. So we do have a timeline. We did issue RFPs, an RFP for commercial paper dealer services. We had those. We did only receive two responses. We had a committee made up of PUB staff and staff from our financial advisor, Estrada Hinojosa. We reviewed the two proposals, and we do have a recommendation from the two. We do have a recommendation from the review committee. But we do have to bring it to the board. We then have to take it to the city as well for their approval. But we have a tentative timeline that put together by our financial advisor, Estrada Hinojosa. And you do have in your packets the confidential rating chart, so you can see what the committee's recommendation was. And so we don't show the rating chart. That is, again, confidential until it is approved and we enter into a contract with one of the firms. But the BPUB staff BPUB and EH staff both are recommending JP Morgan. We looked at they were pretty even on most things. It came down to the price. We looked at the upfront costs and then the basis points that we pay on those outstanding notes. And so it's the committee's recommendation to proceed with JP Morgan. We will be taking this to the board on Monday, and we will be asking the finance committee to make a recommendation to the full board, if you all are in agreement with staff and the financial advisor's recommendations as well.
Yep. Any questions or comments for Monica?
We do have Jorge Estrada is with us from Jorge Garza from Estrada Hinojosa is on the line with us as well in case y'all have any questions for him from our financial advisors?
Joseph, any question?
No, I think that's good.
I don't see any issues with the recommendation.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Monica. Next up is discussion and possible recommendation on the RFP for bond counsel services. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. So the current bond counsel contract with Oric, Harrington and Sutcliffe is expiring on March 1st of 2024. So we are taking the opportunity now with plenty of time to initiate the RFQ process for the bond counsel services. We've attached a draft RFQ for your review and comments. The required qualifications and scope of services are outlined in pages 12 and 13. So please reach out to us with any changes or comments once you've had an opportunity to review. In the meantime, staff will continue to tweak and work on the RFQ to get it ready for release.
When-
I wanted to put that on the radar.
When are you thinking that'll be released, Mike?
We can do it next month. So if within the next 2 weeks, we can get some feedback from the finance committee, once you get an opportunity to review the RFQ, let us know. If we don't hear back from the committee, then we can proceed with the release as soon as possible within 2 weeks. That's all.
Okay.
Any questions?
No. Joseph, any questions?
No, sir.
All right. Next up is the discussion possible recommendation on request for proposals for the FA services.
So this one as well. So the current financial advisory services contract with Estrada Hinojosa and Company also expires on March 1st of 2024. Now, the contract does have an option to renew the agreement for an additional 1 year at BPV's discretion. So at this time, we are requesting guidance from this committee as to whether we exercise the option to renew for 1 more year or go out for an RFQ. I would like to point out that Estrada Hinojosa has been bought out or acquired by Texas Regional Bank. That was officially announced this past Monday. So just putting it out there. And so we just want to get your opinion as to whether we should go out for RFQs as well, or would the board be okay with extending it for an additional 1 year?
What's the timeline on that, Mike? I mean, assuming that you want to go out and request proposals, when would you be wanting to?
We would
propose?
follow the same timeline as we do with the bond council. So we could issue an RFQ in the next 2 weeks or so, just to give us enough time to get this in time, and then bring it to the board for approval and consideration, even with ample time to get it effective March 1st,
March 1st.
2024.
Okay, so basically, we have until next meeting to provide any feedback or ask any questions or, get feedback from the rest of the board as well.
Yeah, we can. So we can postpone this one for another 30 days, and as we hear back, we'll make a determination as to whether we go out. Yeah, so we still have plenty of time to issue out an RFQ next month.
Okay. That way we can get
Feedback
input
from everybody.
from, not only from this committee, but from other board members.
Understood.
Yeah. Is that something that is being discussed with the full board as well? or
No, it's not part of the board agenda.
Not yet.
We could follow up with an email to the rest of the board just to,
No, I was just curious. Both of those both bond council and FA have a March 24.
March
expiration?
1st, 2024 expiration.
Okay.
Mike, what's the process or the protocol? If you said there's an option for a 1 year option to extend the current financial advisor?
Correct. So if the board wishes to, we can always bring back an agenda item in December, January, requesting the extension for an additional year, which would run through March 1st of 2025.
Just out of curiosity, when was the last time that we went out for proposals?
It was 5 years ago. That would have been 2018.
Okay.
Both bond counsel and financial advisors,
Okay.
RFQs went out at the same time.
And how long have we had Estrada Hinojosa as RFA?
This contract, of course, is for 5 years, but they've been our FA for more than 10 years.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Joseph, any questions?
Nope.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Mike. And number 8 is discussion and possible, or sorry, discussion of BPUB's progress on the natural gas hedging strategies and power supply. And I know we've got a similar item on in our closed meeting. So I don't know if there's something that will be presented in open as well.
Yes, I believe it's being broken up between both sessions,
Okay,
open and closed.
great.
So on the call, we do have Glenn Justice, our consultant, along with Lina Alvarez. And I think, Lina, you're going to take the lead on this?
That is correct. Yes. Good afternoon. Can you all hear me okay?
We've got you loud and clear, Lina.
Perfect. Okay. So today, Glenn and I will be providing a gas hedging update. And the presentation includes a summary of the task completed. Give me a second. I'm not changing slides. There it is. A summary of the task completed, an assessment of the pilot transactions, recommendations, and next steps. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. The summary of the task completed, the finance department led the update of the BPV investment policy. Resolutions were implemented and the energy risk management policy was updated and approved by the board. Other items included the energy risk management group led the initial ISDA contracting efforts. We have 2 ISDA agreements now in place. One of them with Shell Energy North America and another one with the Nazca Power Services. We also drafted the gas hedging guidelines, and we have established or executed 3 pilot gas hedges since we first started. The first one was from June 22nd to the 30th for 1,500 MMBTUs per day. The second one being from July 1st to the 31st for 5,000 MMBTUs per day. And the last one being August 1st to the 31st for 10,000 MMBTUs per day. The purpose of the pilot transaction was to gain experience and understanding prior to implementing a full-blown gas hedging program. We have gained experience quite a bit, especially on pricing, the settlement process, and market conditions related to gas hedging, and we continue to learn throughout the process, throughout the implementation, that is. Okay, the assessment of the pilot transactions. In summary, the pilot program is behaving exactly as expected. We're confident we can successfully manage this program, and we recommend full implementation of the gas hedging program at this time. It will be crucial, however, to continue to manage and monitor the effectiveness and cost of the program versus the risk management benefits. So we will continue to work and improve as needed. That's all I have in open session. We do have much more detail in closed session because of the sensitivity and confidentiality of the actual costs associated with gas hedging. That will be covered during closed session. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Lina, just since it's on the slide, I'll go ahead and ask, but that final bullet point on the importance of monitoring effectiveness and cost of the program versus risk management benefits, do we have clearly established metrics to do that? Or, I mean, how will we make sure that we're able to monitor effectiveness and compare to the benefits?
Sure, definitely. So we're implementing some metrics. Of course, they're always open for discussion with the board in terms of if there's any improvements to them. Some of the metrics that we've implemented are covered in closed session, and you'll see it through the slides. I believe we've developed a pretty good monitoring method that could be improved throughout as we receive some recommendations from the board. But I think the BEPM is doing a really good job assisting us in having these metrics and being able to provide that to the board on a monthly basis or as needed. I guess in short, the answer is yes. We've developed pretty good metrics, but of course, always open for improvement recommendations from the board.
Great. Well, I would ask that you're able to share that information to the extent possible, especially, I know Joseph's always looking for additional work on his plate. So be able to share those, not only the metrics, but perhaps more importantly, the targets. So we know from the beginning what that number should look like. And as the numbers come in, we can compare it to what we expected from the beginning.
Definitely. So just to give you some quick detail on that, we are looking at actuals in terms of what our fuel cost is versus what we're obtaining from Shell. So there's a direct comparison with the numbers. So prior to us approving any type of invoice, the first thing we take a look at is actual pricing, gas pricing, and then comparing it to what Shell is providing us. So yeah, definitely, I'll share more detail.
Great. Any other questions for Lena? Again, this is an item that will also be addressed in closed session. But if there are any questions regarding the items that were discussed or that are on the slides, feel free to shoot at this time.
Lena, we're cautiously optimistic that the program is going to be good for PV.
Yeah, definitely. Cautious and optimistic.
Joseph, anything to add at this time?
Nope. I'll have some more questions and closed, but yeah.
Well, thank you, Lena. I would say, or I will say, job well done. I know this is something that we've been working on for a long time, and being able to have 3 months worth of data, I think will be helpful for this committee and for the full board going forward in terms of a final decision regarding the implementation of the program.
Thank you.
Okay, so that does it for number 8. And at this time, we do have a scheduled closed meeting. So 12:49 p.m. We'll exit open meeting and enter into closed session.
I think you got to make a motion.
I'll make a motion. But we're moving to closed session.
Here we go. We've got a
Second.
motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. We'll go into the closed session at 12:49 p.m. Good. All right, it's 1:26 p.m. We're back in the open meeting. Discussion, there are no recommendations on closed meeting items. Discussion and or request for future agenda items. Anything you need, Art?
No, we're pretty good time.
Okay, well, the only thing I would say there, Mike, is perhaps solicit feedback regarding the item on the going out for requests for proposals on the FA services.
Okay.
Just to see if any of the other board members or committee members want to provide information there. And then we'll keep track of the hedging program and hopefully have August, the data for August to present at the next board meeting. That's it. 1:27 p.m. Okay, adjourning. Meeting adjourned. You guys, thank you for being here and enjoy the rest of the day. If you guys need anything from us, well, you know where to get us. Next board meeting is not is okay until next week.